The end of the world is a matter of perspective. That concept, Armageddon, is portrayed in media in a multitude of different ways. Alien invasions, nuclear apocalypses, and now, quite close to home, global pandemics wiping out significant portions of the population. All of these are global in their scale and catastrophic in their consequence. And in these stories, you can say without a sense of a doubt that one thing is clear. The world is fucking ending. Yet, these examples all share another characteristic: their broadness, the level of disaster affecting every person. It can feel a little detached. So when a story comes along that portrays this concept in a way that's a little more intimate, a little more human, you're going to capture a lot of attention. The Last of Us released in 2013, and in a time where it seemed like everyone and their mother was writing zombie-based fiction where people are the real monsters, developer Naughty Dog masterfully twisted that concept in a way that shook the industry to its very foundation. It not only delivered a compelling narrative that doubled as the biggest emotional gut punch that you'd ever experienced in a video game to that point, but its core ethos, simple story, complex characters, is responsible for single-handedly ushering in a new age of storytelling in video games. God of War, Spider-Man 2018, it's hard to imagine these coming to pass without the striking influence of The Last of Us, and there's a reason for that. Its writing, a poignant and beautifully restrained exploration of humanity in a world where that seemed a rarity, was so captivating and so capable of making you feel the feels that you hadn't experienced before in a video game. It's not exactly a surprise that many regard it as one of the best video games ever made and one of the best stories ever told. Its world, and the more grounded depiction of a trope that was all too overused by that point, a mutated version of the cordyceps fungus taking control of people's brains, was a twist on zombies that felt novel, and the exploration of an idea like this, where it's theoretically feasible, made the impossible scenario seem a little more realistic. Its gameplay, a mixture of stealth combat and an intentionally clunkier and grittier feeling version of the gunplay from Uncharted, was never going to win it any awards. But the way that Naughty Dog were able to weave it into the narrative without either of the two ever feeling like they were conflicting with each other was a huge strength, especially for the time. Look, I love The Last of Us, and I don't feel like I can call myself a video game YouTuber without at least making a video talking about it. So that's what I'm going to do. One of my favorite games of all time, the game that possibly ignited the whole conversation about video games as an art form and a story that changed everything. This is also going to be a bit of a long one, so grab a drink, maybe grab some snacks, stay a while. It's good to see you. I'm also going to spoil the whole game, so you know what to do. I'm James Jensen for Reset Button, and this isn't a review. This is a look back at one of the greatest video games ever made. It's a story that is human to its core, about loss, about sacrifice, and the lengths that we'll go to for those we love. And it's a story about regaining what is lost and what it means to face the end of the world, whatever it might be.
Tommy, listen to me. He is the contractor. He's the contractor, okay? I can't lose this job. I understand. Let's talk about this in the morning, okay?
Joel, a hard-working father, returns home in the late hours of the night to his daughter, Sarah. It's his birthday, and she gifts him a watch. They watch TV together, and she drifts off to sleep, only to awaken to catastrophe.
I need to talk to your dad now.
I am warning you! I can't fucking drive through! Then back up then!
In a matter of hours, people have lost their minds, fleeing from horrors unknown, and in an effort to escape the city, Joel finds himself carrying his helpless daughter through a hellscape, entrusting his brother Tommy his revolver. "Keep us safe," he says, as the three try desperately to escape from the chaos. They run through the city, desperately seeking shelter as buildings burn to the ground. People flee from crazed infected. Screams can be heard from every direction. Eventually, the group gets separated, and as Joel carries a wounded Sarah, infected in hot pursuit, they are saved by the gunfire of a soldier posted at a nearby bridge. The soldier radios to his superiors. Refrain can be heard in his voice as Joel realizes the military may not be the salvation he initially thought.
Shit.
After taking fire, Tommy kills the soldier, and well, you know what happens next.
Oh no. Sarah. Move your hands, baby. I know, baby, I know. God. Listen to me, I know this hurts, baby. You're gonna be okay, baby. Stay with me. All right, I'm gonna pick you up. I know, baby, I know it hurts. Come on, baby, please. I know, baby, I know. Sarah. Baby.
The gall of Naughty Dog to show such a confronting sequence so early on in our knowing of these characters immediately sets the tone for the experience we're going to have. Many tears have been shed here, and there are many more to come. Don't worry.
Please, please, please don't. Please.
Fast forward 20 years, Joel is but a shell of his former self, a smuggler working within the Boston quarantine zone, and it's here we meet his smuggling partner, Tess. From the get-go, it's clear that Tess is in charge around here, running the smuggling game while Joel acts as her enforcer. She's brash and she's commanding, and informs Joel that she's found the location of someone that owes them, Robert, and with haste, they both set out to find him. We're hit with some world building here. People wait in line for rations they may or may not receive, and Fedra, the military, lining people up in the streets and scanning them for potential infection, executing them on the spot if they read positive. A lot's happened in the past 2 decades, and you get the feeling that those that have survived this long have seen and done some horrible things. On our way to find our guy, we get a lot of insight into how people are living post-mushroom apocalypse. The military are engaged with some revolutionaries known as the Fireflies. People are cooking up rats in the street, and perhaps most importantly, people are desperate enough to sneak outside of the wall and risk getting infected. On our way to Robert, we're introduced to the game's combat, and there's been a lot of criticism about this, but I honestly think it serves its purpose quite well. Gunplay feels slow and intentional, and the game intentionally starves you of resources, meaning, especially at higher difficulties, you need to make every shot count, as oftentimes you won't have enough ammo to take on most encounters. This idea is expanded by the game's stealth system, which, while fundamentally quite basic, feels shockingly tense at times, as the enemy AI will search relentlessly for you if you manage to slip away after being seen. It's quite difficult to complete these encounters without being detected, and there's almost always this dual structure of stealthing until you're eventually discovered, and a tense, white-knuckled firefight ensues until one side emerges victorious. Encounters with the infected almost always play out stealthily, as their erratic movements make it much more threatening to deal with them with guns. You know, I quite like the combat. It feels like a good combination of the survival horror style resource management and Uncharted style firefights. That's not to say it's best in class or anything. If you want to be critical, melee combat devolves into button spam without much thought, but to be fair, you don't engage with it all that often, as it's made to be somewhat of a last resort. There's definitely more to say about it, but I'll get back to it later. When we eventually catch up to Robert, we find out that what he owes us, a cache of weapons, has been pawned off to the Fireflies, and Tess isn't too happy about that. It's here we meet Marlene, leader of the Fireflies, injured, and she makes us a deal. If we want the weapons back, we're gonna have to help her smuggle something out of the city and to the Boston Capitol building. Tess and Joel apprehensively agree, and we soon learn that the contraband that Marlene so desperately needs to escape with is a 14-year-old girl with an extreme case of potty mouth.
Oh shit, I'm not
Ellie.
him.
Joel, clearly apprehensive, takes Ellie to a safe house to await nightfall, where it'll be easier to evade Fedra patrols outside the wall. Ellie points to his broken watch, the same one that Sarah gifted him on the night of her death. He chuckles and drifts off to sleep. At nightfall, he's awoken by Tess, and the three of them venture outside the wall. It's not long before they're captured by a Fedra patrol and scanned for infection, and just as they're about to scan Ellie, she stabs the soldier in the leg, and Tess and Joel dispatch the group. They frantically discuss their path forward, and Tess sees something peculiar about the scanner on the ground. Ellie is infected.
Jesus Christ.
Clearly taken aback, the two try and figure out what to do, questioning why Marlene would set them up to smuggle an infected person out of the city, and Ellie pulls up her sleeve. Her bite is 3 weeks old, she says, and in disbelief, the two scold her. This isn't possible. Everyone knows this isn't possible. Everyone turns within 2 days. Their conversation is promptly cut short by another Fedra patrol, and the group flee into the rubble.
Go! Go! Move!
After a tense stealth encounter, the group make it out into Boston City, and Joel and Tess immediately interrogate Ellie. She says that Marlene suspects that Ellie is immune, and that whatever happened to her is the key to reverse engineering a vaccine against the infection. A potential savior to humanity, Tess immediately asks what the plan was, as Joel brushes off the interaction, saying that they've heard it all before. The group head through a bombed shell of the city to the Capitol building, now teeming with infected. It's here we're introduced to the Clickers, and it's hard to think of a more iconic design in zombie media. Their faces, contorted with fungal growths acting as a sort of sound trap, they crane their heads around and click their tongues, searching for prey through echolocation. They are truly terrifying and will insta-kill you in combat if they manage to get close, meaning they're a threat that demands your respect. They're subject to years of infection, where the fungus has completely taken over their bodies, granting them immense strength but removing their ability to see, meaning that while they aren't able to spot you, their hearing is extremely sensitive. You need to move slowly while near them, or throw bottles and bricks to distract them, allowing safe passage. Clickers are much less of an enemy in these circumstances, as they are a puzzle looking to be solved, as especially if there are many of them, you can't expect to fight them head on, as they're just too durable. It's really a masterclass of design, and that screech they let out when you're a little too loud or get spotted by something else is not something you'll soon forget. After the collapse of some rubble, the group gets separated and you have to regroup while under pressure from multiple clickers drawn to the sound, only managing to reunite with Tess and Ellie right as catastrophe is about to strike, saving them at the last minute as they're swarmed by runners, our standard infected. After a tough fight, you make it outside, the Capitol building clearly visible as morning approaches, and Joel shares a moment with Ellie, admiring the sunrise over the city.
So is that everything you hoped for?
Jury's still out. But man, can't deny that view.
Come on, this way.
As she moves forward, he subconsciously glances down at his watch, and Tess, still shaken by their encounter, frustratedly hurries him along. The group arrives at the building, and you find the group of Fireflies that you were supposed to meet already dead, as Tess loses her collected demeanor, desperately looking for something to tell you where the Fireflies plan to take Ellie after the handoff. Joel, clearly taken aback by Tessa's erratic behavior, questions her, where she reveals that in your last encounter, she was bitten when you got separated. In her desperation, she tells Joel that he has to take Ellie to Tommy, his brother, that he used to be a Firefly and would know where to take her. Joel refuses, and Tess, despite recognizing his apprehension, makes an effort to guilt him into doing so, not for the sake of humanity, but as an obligation to her as his partner. Tess is stubborn and wants to go out believing that she played a role in saving humanity from the fungal scourge, really playing into that connection that her and Joel have to make him complete the journey. It's at this point the military shows up, clearly there for the Fireflies, and Tess tells you to take Ellie and that she'll hold them off. Joel says that he can stay and fight, and Tess brazenly refuses.
Come on. Make this easy for me.
I can find it.
No, just go! Just fucking go.
Joel and Ellie escape into a spore-filled subway as the military kills Tess on the spot. The spores are another way that people get infected, a gas mask being essential travel kit, and as the two run through, Ellie is fully capable of breathing the fungus-filled air like it's nothing, prompting Joel to reconsider her immunity. It's also revealed here that she can't swim, and to ford the deep water, Joel needs to find a pallet for her to stand on so she can get across safely. As they exit the tunnels, Ellie tries to apologize for what happened to Tess, and Joel responds very coldly.
I don't even know what...
Here's how this thing's gonna play out. You don't bring up Tess. Ever.
Joel, despite his immense disdain for the whole ordeal, decides to fulfill Tess's last wish and find his brother in Wyoming to get Ellie to the Fireflies. We learn a lot about Joel here, clearly still lingering on the death of Sarah. Instead of opening up and exploring how he feels about it, his method of coping is just to completely disengage from anything that would remind him of the past, aping that very notion here in how he behaves surrounding Tessa's passing with Ellie. He shuts down the conversation, despite her clearly needing to talk through it, something we'll see time and time again. If Joel and Ellie are to get to Wyoming, they're going to need a car, unsurprisingly a difficult thing to come by 20 years post-apocalypse. Joel's only idea is to find Bill, a friend and another contact in his smuggling operation, and hope for the best. We're in the suburbs now, outside of the oppressive concrete of the city with a little more room to breathe. We see a sense of wonder in Ellie as she's surprised by the beauty of the forest. She informs Joel that this is her first time out in nature as she's lived in the QZ all her life. He brushes her off.
Never walked in the woods. It's kind of cool.
I really like this section. You explore what would seem like an abandoned town were it not for roadblocks and warnings written in paint. Good old Bill. The game allows you some freedom here to explore some abandoned buildings, an old record store, a garden with some weird gnomes. Ellie and Joel are starting to talk.
Gnomes.
Yeah, those are gnomes.
Man.
Joel is clearly still not comfortable, but a friendlier demeanor starts to peek through. You can find notes throughout the game, people's writings to each other as the world was falling apart. One I remember quite vividly was the diary entries of a kid as Bill's town was being evacuated in the early days of the outbreak. Subtle conversations, their parents whispering downstairs about their path forward, having to release their dog in the woods. Oftentimes, it's not the overt. It's not people eating rats in the street or martial law that tells you the most about the kind of world that we're in, but the subtle perspectives from those come and gone, the cruel reality of what those innocent had to deal with when the world's end arrived at their feet. Bill has set up some elaborate traps in the town, not just to deter infected, but the raiders that might come through as well, as Joel gets caught in one of these, resulting in a cool upside-down shootout. Bill enters at just the right time to save the pair as they make an escape through a horde of infected.
Man, that was close. Thanks for the heroics and all. Ellie. Hey, what are you... Joel?
Bill!
What are you doing?
Bill! Turn around and get on your knees.
Just calm down a second.
Bill is paranoid, untrusting of even Joel, who he knows well, and you very quickly get the idea that if he found out about Ellie's affliction, he would put her down without a second thought, creating some interesting tension in their following encounters. After his panicked entrance, Bill calms down a bit and he and Joel discuss their need for a car. Bill reluctantly agrees to prepare a vehicle, yet informs him that the only working battery would likely be in a wrecked military truck in an area of town so overrun with infected that he's never been there. Great. Joel mentions that Ellie is with him at Tessa's request, but completely and utterly refuses to acknowledge her fate, instead arguing with Bill whenever she's mentioned. It speaks a lot to Joel's character, who is more willing to pretend that the death of his dear friend didn't even happen instead of working through it. He also becomes a lot colder towards Ellie, knowing that Bill is paying attention and judging him for it.
Stay here.
Fine. Just wait around for you two to get me killed.
The trio gear up and begin the trek across town to the school where the aforementioned truck crashed into, only to find the area teeming with infected. They accidentally attract the attention of a horde. The group desperately push towards the truck, aiming to get in and out as quickly as possible. They break into the school, barricade the door with infected at their heels, Bill frantically trying to get the bonnet of the truck open, and boom, there's no battery. This is obviously a problem, as no battery means no working car, but we have a slightly more pressing matter of the horde on our tail, so we make a desperate attempt to sneak through the school and make an exit. As we push into the gymnasium, a loud rumble can be heard from behind a closed door, and panic strikes. The door bursts open and a gargantuan fungal monstrosity hurtles towards the group, Bill quickly describing it as a bloater. Like clickers, bloaters have been infected for a long time, and the cordyceps has fully enveloped their bodies, resulting in thick, armor-like plating and spore-filled pustules sprouting from the gaps. It's a great design in principle, but in practice it falls a bit short of the fantasy in my opinion. They present a combat challenge that's a little more about exhausting your resources than it is about actual difficulty, but thankfully you don't come across them all that often. Upon taking out said bloater, we escape into the backyard of a nearby house, free from the infected. Bill starts to rile Joel up about Tess, and as the two get heated, Bill stops suddenly.
Jesus. What, you know this guy or something?
Frank.
Who the hell's Frank?
We see Frank, Bill's partner, having committed suicide after being bitten, and Bill, clearly affected by it in ways that we can only try to understand, cuts him down. As he tries to piece together exactly what might have happened, we hear the sound of a car engine struggling to start. Our battery, taken by Frank and retrofitted into a car, is drained but still functional, so our next port of call is to let the alternator recharge the battery. The only problem is that the area is still swarming with infected, so we gear up and get ready to move. You can actually find an angrily written note from Frank to Bill in this house, saying how much he despised living with him, and for some reason, the game lets you give it to him. I still haven't decided whether this is just needlessly cruel or weirdly compassionate, so I'll leave that for you to decide.
Well, fuck you too, Frank. Fuck
Ellie, in the driver's seat of the car, gets a hearty reassurance from Joel, which she's clearly pleased with, and the group get going. I really like this section, as you have to alternate between pushing the car and facing off against waves of runners and clickers, and the music. Its droning guitar and drums really come together super well to amplify the tension. It's weirdly exciting in a way. The game is really good at switching up its encounters as a pacing mechanism. It's not quite as crazy as something like Uncharted, as it's looking to be a lot more realistic, but it definitely achieves its goal well. We get the car to a hill, Ellie manages to start it, and the three of you make a quick escape, Horde in hot pursuit. It's great stuff. Fast forward. We've outrun the Horde. Ellie stops the car and Bill and Joel say their farewells. Joel makes an effort to console Bill regarding Frank's passing, and the group part ways. Bill and Frank, our first cautionary tale regarding the fate of Joel and Ellie if they aren't able to reconcile their differences. I think this section, Bill's Town, works really well at establishing a connection between the characters. Joel is still rather apprehensive at this point, but it's clear that the two are growing fond of each other, and the town itself does a really good job at building up what the world might look like outside of the cities, outside of Fedra quarantine zones and militaristic factions. It's a harsh life that Bill lives, but you're able to understand why one might choose to live like that instead of the oppressive reality of the zones. We're on our way to Wyoming now, a short 2,400-mile journey, leaving Boston behind for good. As you can imagine, a car ride like that would be boring as hell, so naturally, Ellie stole a bunch of stuff from Bill to keep them occupied. This is the first real bonding time we've seen between the two. Tension's obviously lifted due to what they've just been through. Joel is still a bit closed off, but as you can see, he's starting to ease up a bit.
Why don't you try to get some sleep? All right.
I'm not even tired.
Ellie wakes up and we're in Pittsburgh. The main highway though is completely blocked by cars, and to Joel, this is a way bigger problem than it initially seems. After debating with himself, he decides that their only option is to travel through the city, and soon after, we see why Joel was so worried. An injured man walks out into the path of the car, pleading for help.
Easy.
Please!
Holy shit.
Help!
Are we gonna help him?
Put your seatbelt on, Ellie.
Well, what about the guy?
He ain't even hurt.
When I think of combat sequences in The Last of Us, this is probably the most memorable in my mind due to how unexpectedly you're thrust into it. The group pulls Joel and Ellie out of the car, and Joel dispatches a few in the struggle as the rest of the crew converge in on them. It's frantic and it's desperate. You're unsure of who these people are and what they're doing, and you know your singular goal: survive. We make it through the assault and find our way into a nearby building, and as Joel holds the door open for Ellie, she's startled by something on the other side.
There's some pretty gnarly stuff in here.
Ellie!
As we make our way through, we see piles of clothes, defiled corpses, and a ledger of items. These are some bad people. A shocking revelation here: Joel used to do the very same thing. The game refers to these people as hunters, those who set up in cities, killing anyone and everyone that enters to scrounge up supplies. It's gruesome, and our first real look at some of the more depraved ways people have made a life outside the quarantine zones.
So, you kill a lot of innocent people?
Joel freely and openly admits that he used to be part of an operation like this, and though he clearly isn't proud of it, it's something he accepts about his past. An interesting point given his compartmentalization of other issues. We make our way through Pittsburgh, a beautifully designed space. Despite the absolute wickedness of the people living in the city, we, and by proxy Ellie, learn a lot about the way people lived before due to things like movie posters, brand advertisements, coffee shops, and hotels. A conversation with Joel about how people chose not to eat for aesthetics despite an abundance of food offers an interesting point.
For looks,
That's stupid.
Nature is bustling without people to maintain the city. Look how beautiful everything is. It's not the end of the world at all. Life clearly goes on in the absence of whatever humanity might be left. It's a bittersweet sight in a city so clearly spoiled by the sins of its inhabitants. But as is clear, this is just what they believe is necessary to survive. Notes tell a tale of an extra oppressive Fedra presence in the zone and a violent uprising, not by our Firefly revolutionaries, but the very people that would become the hunters. The story of Pittsburgh is a harrowing one, filled with vengeance, depravity, and hesitancy from some. The point that it hammers home is that these people that we're fighting, they were once just like us, just doing what they believed to be right under the harsh hand of the government. And I can't help but wonder, who are the bad guys in all of this? The lines are grey, and it's an interesting quandary to think through. As we venture forth, we hear that the hunters have commandeered a military Humvee, and we cut through a hotel to stay off the streets. As we push through, we hear that the group knows about our presence, all the more reason to get the hell out of the city. With no way forward, Joel and Ellie have to climb through an elevator shaft to progress. We boost Ellie up into the next room, and as we do so, everyone's worst nightmare happens. The lift gives way and Joel plummets downwards. The two are separated now, and Joel implores Ellie to stay put as he searches for a way back to her. We're in the basement, the dank, flooded underbelly of the hotel, and we push into the abyss to find a path forward. Eventually, we see spores, signaling infected, but they're nowhere to be seen. Carrying on, we find a locked door requiring a keycard and power to access. And as we turn, we see something I'm sure nobody would want to experience.
I hate these things.
These are stalkers, and let it be known, I hate these motherfuckers. This section sees us with two objectives, starting a generator and finding a keycard, all while under bombardment from a group of infected that use our greatest weapon against us, stealth. If there's one part of The Last of Us that will sear itself into your mind by nature of how close you get to shitting yourself, it's this one. The Stalker's infection has progressed past that of the runners, and while they still retain their vision, they behave a little strangely. These guys won't face you head on, they'll run from you and hide, and you can hear them scurrying around trying to get a flank on you to catch you out when you don't expect it. The reason that this section is as stressful as it is that you pass through it, not one time, but are forced to retread your ground when you realize the true nature of the area. Even better, once you start the generator, you'll find out that there's a bloater in here with you as well. A much better designed combat encounter than the gymnasium, as you're able to utilize the layout of the basement to get a heads up. All in all, this section is a great horror sequence that breaks up the other kinds of horrors that we experience on the surface. A+ Naughty Dog. We make our way out of the basement. There's a group of hunters clearing infected in the hotel who we promptly dispatch and look for a path back to Ellie. We get into a tussle with another hunter where Joel is overpowered, and right as it looks like he's about to meet his end, Ellie shows up and shoots the guy.
I shot the hell out of that guy, huh?
Ellie, in a bit of a state after killing someone for the first time, asks Joel for reassurance that she did the right thing, yet Joel, out of embarrassment or frustration that she didn't listen to him, scolds her. I really like how the two are characterized in this segment, slamming on the brakes in the development of their relationship over some petty squabble that could easily be resolved if the two of them were just able to listen to each other. But as stupid as it is, we get it, because we've been there.
We gotta get going.
Lead the way.
It feels very human. The two make their way onto some scaffolding, and there's a big group of hunters in the courtyard below, now on edge as they've started to realize that you're more dangerous than they initially thought. Joel tells Ellie that she's going to wait on the scaffolding as he deals with the threat, and as she's about to protest, he puts his pride aside, handing her a rifle. A large stealth and combat section follows, where I feel the gameplay and narrative combine to work wonders here. If you're spotted, Ellie will provide you with covering fire from the scaffolding, showing that she's capable. It's clear that the two are learning to work together, and that Joel is going to have to trust her if they're going to get out of this. You dispatch the group. Ellie meets Joel in the courtyard, and he takes a pistol off of one of the bodies and gives it to her. A turning point in their relationship going forward, setting them on a much more positive path.
How about something a little more your size? It's for emergencies only.
Okay.
We push onwards and we get a good look at the Humvee now, this time chasing a group of scavengers. One of the hunters exits the truck and executes one of the down without a second thought, and Joel realizes things are considerably worse than he initially thought and is more motivated than ever to escape from the city. Wait, fuck, wrong game, sorry. We get spotted by the Humvee for the first time here, and what follows is a really tense segment as you're pushed into some shops, under fire from the mounted gun while the hunters try and flank you and push you out into the open. You gotta be extra mindful of your positioning here, lest getting hit by fire from the truck. It's designed well enough to keep you on your toes. We escape through some buildings and we find our way up onto some ledges near a group of apartments, and as we shimmy across, the Humvee drives underneath looking for us. An open window is ahead. This is Henry and Sam, two brothers that entered the city in a larger group in search of supplies, also unknowing of what they'd be walking into. Henry makes a comment that he knew that Joel and Ellie weren't a part of the hunters, as they don't keep kids around. The hunters are people that do not care about living like normal people. They're so caught up in their way of life that they have forgone their humanity. Survival of the fittest heavily implying that they would kill anyone that doesn't live up to their standards. We follow Henry to his hideout, closer to the bridge and our exit point. On the way, Sam tries to take a toy robot with him from a nearby shop, which is immediately shut down by Henry. Sam protests, but Henry reiterates, in the world that they're in, they can only afford to take exactly what they need. A harsh reality where a kid can't even afford to take one toy with him. Henry informs us that the group are planning to leave the city and convene at an abandoned radio tower just outside of the suburbs, and that after that, they're on their way out west to find the Fireflies. Joel takes a crack at him, saying it's interesting that a lot of people are putting stock in the plight of the Fireflies these days, then lets him know that they're also going that way too. They gesture to traveling together if the circumstances line up. The plan is, once night falls, the group that are guarding the bridge will likely be down to a skeleton crew, and that's our best chance of sneaking out. Things generally go to plan, but as the group make it through the gate, our favorite Humvee shows up and we have to hustle on out of there. Sam and Henry climb onto a truck blocking the exit, but as Ellie makes it up, the ladder breaks away, leaving Joel on his lonesome, trapped as the Humvee rams the gate. Henry realizes it's probably hopeless to try and save Joel and runs off with Sam, leaving Joel to his fate. With no time to react, Ellie jumps back down, reassuring Joel that they stick together, showing how far they've come.
We stick together.
The two escape into a nearby bar. We dispatch some goons and make our way towards the bridge, and the Humvee bursts through the gate. The camera turns, revealing the word "run" written on the bumper. The two desperately run for the bridge, Humvee in hot pursuit as the hunters hound them with gunfire, and they soon realize that the bridge has collapsed in the middle, meaning they've got nowhere to go. Joel suggests standing and fighting. Ellie says there's no time to argue and jumps off the bridge. Joel dives after her. Joel is knocked unconscious here and is awoken by Ellie on the beach, with Henry and Sam both nearby. Joel gets up in a fit of rage and walks over and rightfully decks Henry. After a heated exchange, Ellie tells Joel that Henry pulled them both out of the river and they would have died if not for him. Joel begrudgingly accepts this, and the group continue forward. There's a boat washed up on the beach here, and inside you can find a note from a man named Ish, gesturing that he had been living out on the boat for as long as his supplies lasted, and that time was up, needing to return to land and learning the true extent of the cordyceps plague. We'll learn more about him in the sewers. Our radio tower is on the other side of a cliff, and the only way through would be to enter a sewer grate and hope for the best. We learn that at least at some point there were a group of people living in here, with elaborate solutions to collect rainwater, children's drawings adorn the walls, beds, a fully functional little society in the sewers. We see a child's drawing of Ish. Ellie and Sam try and play with a soccer ball. Henry stops them.
Let's keep it down, buddy, okay? Yeah. Sorry.
There were kids, families, all living together, seemingly safe from not just the infected, but the people that would wish to harm them. The question then is, why isn't anyone here anymore? As we push further in, we find that not even a place like this can escape the tragedy of this world. We find some infected, we clear them out. Notes left from Ish reveal that someone left a door open, and the rest is history. A few people made it out, but the worst of it lies behind a locked door. We break through. Little legs protrude out from under a tarp. A note reads, "We're trapped. I think everyone else is dead. Some of the little ones are with me. I've got infected pounding at the door. I don't know how long we'll hold out. If Ish and the others are alive, maybe they can reach us. If it comes down to it, I'll make it quick." We make it out of the sewers. The maintenance tunnel reads, "Infected inside. Do not open." Fuck! We're out in the suburbs now. A reprieve from the horrors that we've just witnessed, both in and out of the city. For the next 20 minutes or so, we just get to chill with the group, exploring houses, talking about ice cream trucks. The kids share a game of darts.
There'll come a day where kids can just be kids again.
Let's go.
You get the feeling that if any part of your quest is worth it, it'll be the opportunity to give these two the childhood they've lost, and so too the many other kids that will follow them. We continue onwards, and as we head towards the tower, a bullet whizzes past the group and Joel urges them to take cover. He spots the sniper's nest, and it's our job now to sneak up and try and take the sniper out while the group distracts them. This is a great combat sequence, so distinct in its design. You push through abandoned buildings, the sniper and his lackeys trying desperately to pin down your position, yelling out to the others if you're spotted. You make it into the house, you take out the sniper, take his rifle for yourself, and provide covering fire for your squad as they advance to your position. As you hold back the onslaught from their assailants, all seems well, and then you hear the roar of an engine.
Surprise, bitch.
It's the fucking Humvee. The hunters from Pittsburgh followed you out here, their armored car advances forward. Joel frantically takes shots at the truck to no avail. The gunner rises from his seat, Molotov cocktail in hand, ready to toss it at the group, and Joel shoots him dead. His fiery concoction falls back into the truck, killing those inside as the car crashes into a nearby house, and you're finally free from your attackers. The commotion has unfortunately alerted the nearby infected as clickers tackle both Henry and Sam to the ground. You dispatch both and provide more covering fire as the horde encroaches on your position. The group meet you inside the house, and you sneak over the fence as infected swarm the area. Close one. After what feels like an eternity, we make it to the radio tower, and to no one's surprise, none of Henry's crew made it out of the city. Joel, Henry, and Ellie talk about what's next, and Sam sits alone in the room across. Joel and Henry connect over their shared love of motorbikes, and they agree to travel together as a group to join up with the Fireflies. Ellie goes to check on Sam, who has decided to take stock of supplies. He's decidedly not himself, and when Ellie pushes him on it, he says that everything's fine, and as she goes back to join the others, he asks how she's never scared. She says that's not true at all, and she's scared of one thing, ending up by herself. Sam the philosopher goes on a tangent about whether or not the infected are still people or not, trapped in their own bodies, and Ellie reassures him they've moved on. She tries to surprise him with the toy robot from earlier and heads to bed. Sam, frustrated, throws the toy to the floor and examines the bite on his leg.
Damn, that smells good.
Morning.
Where's Sam?
I let him sleep in for once.
Oh,
Well, if you want him to join us, you can go wake his ass up.
okay. Sam?
The hell? Shit, he's turning! That's my fucking brother! Screw it!
Shit!
Ellie? Ellie, are you alright?
Oh my god.
Sam?
Oh no.
Sam?
Henry? Ellie, stay there. Henry?
What have you done?
I'm gonna get that gun from you, okay? Oh, okay, easy.
It's your fault.
This is nobody's fault, Henry.
It's all your fault.
Henry! Henry, no!
Oh my god.
Sam, so conditioned by the world and Henry to act out of self-preservation, puts the whole group at risk despite knowing of his infection. Cautionary tale number 2, clearly a parallel to Joel and Ellie. The two met their tragic demise purely because they couldn't bring themselves to communicate more openly with each other. Man, we've been through some traumatic shit so far, hey? It's been a couple months now. We're in Wyoming. We've entered Jackson County, and we know where Tommy has posted up. I really like this time skip as it not only serves to release the tension from the previous incident, but allows us to imagine just how Joel and Ellie would have coped with what happened. It's clear they've grown a fair bit closer in the time they've been traveling. The overall tone of their conversation is a lot lighter. We have to cross the river, but there's no clear path forward, so we decide to cross over the dam. Some more thrilling palette-based gameplay. I don't care too much for these puzzles, but they act as a decent enough backdrop for some conversation between the two. You sort a path across the dam. Ellie and Joel high five. Yeah. we come to a small grave, and Ellie brings up that she forgot to leave the robot on Sam's grave back in Pittsburgh, to which Joel shuts the conversation down. Even after everything they've been through, and despite their growing closeness, Joel still refuses to acknowledge things like Henry and Sam, like Tess, indicating that despite making huge strides with Ellie, he's still a brick wall regarding his own emotions. Things happen, we move on, he says. The two press forward. To get to Jackson, they're going to have to cut through the power plant, and as they approach the gate, they're stopped by a group occupying the area. A stern woman asks what they're doing, and the gate slowly opens.
He's my goddamn brother.
Tommy.
Holy shit.
How you doing, baby brother?
Goddamn.
Finally fulfilling our promise to Tess, we found Tommy. The woman from earlier is Tommy's wife, Maria, and the two of them have taken the reins of a settlement in Jackson City, where there's crops, there's livestock, and electricity due to the hydroelectric dam. It's a good life, it seems, a real sign of the old times, maybe even something worth saving. This stands in stark contrast to the groups we've seen up to this point, who have all leaned into their depravity, the hunters seemingly taking joy in killing innocent people. Tommy seems pleased to see Joel and offers to show him around the plant, while Ellie rather apprehensively goes with Maria to put some food in her. We learn about Jackson's operation, their efforts to repair the dam, and that Tommy went back home to Texas to see what he could find. Tommy offers Joel a photo of him and Sarah, which Joel refuses, still unable to accept the past. We watch the workers reactivate the dam's generator and go to discuss Joel's sudden appearance privately.
I've been on quite the adventure, little brother.
This is a bombshell of a conversation here, where Joel reveals that he wants Tommy to take Ellie to the Fireflies on his own, a plan that he had no doubt cooked up months earlier after Tess died. Tommy, understanding how dangerous this is, refuses, and Joel leans into his previous alliance with the Fireflies, saying that the search for a cure is his crusade and he should be more than happy to take Ellie off of his hands if it means saving humanity. Tommy puts his foot down and sternly tells Joel that it isn't happening, prompting a fight between the two, revealing to us the true nature of their relationship. Despite being happy to see Joel, the two clearly left off on some not so amicable terms the last time they'd seen each other, and as tensions are high, the plant is attacked by raiders and the two of you rush to save the workers. A combat section follows in the dam as you fight your way back to Ellie and Maria. "Do your thing, Joel," says Tommy as they push forward, hinting at Joel's violent past, something Tommy has obviously not forgotten in their time apart. You take out the remaining raiders and you make your way back to the girls.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh man, they were coming in from every direction. Then Maria was like, "We gotta run!" And so we dove over these tables, and this huge guy blasted with a shotgun.
Slow down. Listen, hey, are you hurt?
No.
Ellie clearly cares a lot about Joel, rambling like a child about what just happened. Tommy sees this and realizes what he has to do. We cut to Tommy and Maria arguing, where Ellie asks what's going on. Joel, knowing she wouldn't be too happy with the answer, brushes her off, and she's reasonably frustrated by his lack of response and walks off. Maria confronts Joel, saying that if anything happens to Tommy, Joel is solely responsible. Tommy agrees to take Ellie to the Fireflies. A clearly conflicted Joel walks away, where Tommy informs him that Ellie has taken one of the horses and ridden off into the forest, and the two chase after her. We get jumped by some raiders who spook our horses. I understand why this is here as a pacing mechanism to ratchet up the tension as Ellie gets further and further away, but to me, this section feels a little bit aimless. We're following Ellie's tracks, and somehow she's managed to ride straight past the massive group of raiders while they stop us. It just feels a little odd, but it's not too long, so I suppose it doesn't matter all that much. We continue forward and find the horse in front of an abandoned farmhouse. We hitch up and head on inside. Joel calls out to Ellie and she responds that she's upstairs. She knows that Joel is going to abandon her and she's obviously not too pleased about it.
Is this really all they had to worry about? Boys, movies, deciding which shirt goes with which skirt. It's bizarre.
Get up. We're leaving.
And if I say no?
Do you even realize what your life means? Huh? Running off like that, putting yourself at risk? It's pretty goddamn stupid.
Well, I guess we're both disappointed with each other then.
What do you want from me?
The complex emotions of these characters is clearly expressed here. The facial animation, the voice work, everything combines into something that is really heart-wrenching.
What are you so afraid of? That I'm gonna end up like Sam? I can't get infected. I can take care of myself.
How many close calls have we had?
Well, we seem to be doing all right so far.
And now you'll be doing even better with Tommy.
Not her, you know.
What?
Maria told me about Sarah.
Ellie?
And
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel. But I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell ain't your dad. And we are going our separate ways.
Get it together. We're not alone.
As Ellie pokes and prods about Sarah, Joel just has this look on his face. 20 years of suppressed emotions threatening to bubble up and explode if she keeps pushing. The Raiders showing up here really does a lot to utilize the tension that the writers have created. Joel says some really cruel things to Ellie, yet the three of them have to fight. It's a masterful use of gameplay to complement the writing. You dispatch the Raiders, get back to the horses, and Ellie is quiet. They ride back to Jackson, giving Joel some time to think about how he feels. And as they approach town, Joel decides it should be his responsibility to take Ellie to the Fireflies. They give Tommy a heartfelt goodbye, to which he says that they have a place in Jackson if they want it. The two head on their way.
Adios, little brother.
Okay, let me see if I get this straight.
We're at the University of Eastern Colorado now, the location of the Firefly Lab, and this is the closest we've seen the two by a long shot. They've reconciled since what happened in Jackson and start to discuss mundane things like football, as well as less mundane things like Sarah, a big step for Joel. Ellie dreams of being an astronaut, and Joel rather reluctantly tells her that he wanted to be a singer growing up. I really like this whole segment. We get to see the two of them mend their strained relationship after some trouble, and there's a good amount of attention to detail regarding just what went down at the university. Not just finding notes from Firefly outposts, but also students from the time of the outbreak. There are, quite surprisingly, infected here, prompting Ellie to question why the Fireflies would be operating in such a dangerous area. Joel mentions that it could be like Bill, who used the infected to deter raiders, with some obvious skepticism in his voice. They continue through the university to find the science lab and stumble across a group of monkeys.
That was kind of awesome.
Well, first time seeing a monkey?
First time seeing a monkey.
There's a little bit of combat with some infected, some environmental puzzles, nothing too crazy, and we push forward to the science building. And surprise, surprise, there's nobody here. We make our way into the lab. Ellie is clearly frustrated that their search has amounted to nothing, and Joel, with a level head, tells her to look for anything that could point to where they went. There aren't any bodies here. We find some audio logs, the scientists detailing that the lab was purposed to run experiments on monkeys in hope of finding a cure, but they had since ceased. One of the scientists, in a valiant effort to release the captive animals, gets bitten and commits suicide. We find his body with an audio log manifesto next to it. He states that the Fireflies had returned to base, St. Mary's Hospital in Salt Lake City, and right as the two hear this, Joel spots something downstairs.
Fireflies?
Get down.
We got the information we need to get the hell out of here. As we make our way downstairs, we get into a struggle with one of the survivors. Joel is pushed over the railing and Joel gets impaled on some rebar, and now it's up to Ellie to take control of the situation and get us out of this. This section is super tense, as your movement slows to a crawl and the game basically stops you from aiming as it's so sluggish. We have to make it back to the horse in one piece, but Joel is losing a lot of blood. He falls to the floor. Ellie is confronted alone by two men. Ellie picks him up and supports him as they make their way back out to the horse, and they ride away. They do make it, but Joel soon loses consciousness and falls off the horse.
Joel? Shit. Joel, here. Oh, get up. You gotta tell me what to do. Come on. You gotta get up. Joel?
Is he dead? Is he dead? We're controlling Ellie now, out hunting for food in the dead of winter, and we know absolutely nothing about Joel's fate. She kills a rabbit and in some blind stroke of luck spots a buck in the distance. We're expected to hunt the deer through the woods, introducing us to some new mechanics here. There are twigs on the ground, and if we step on them, they'll spook the deer, something that will definitely not come back to haunt us later. I like the design here. As you tag the deer with your bow and arrow, you can see its path from the blood upon the snow. Eventually we manage to take it down in what appears to be an old mining camp, and as Ellie is inspecting her catch, she's approached by two strangers who seem interested in trading for the deer. Ellie almost instinctively blurts out that she needs medicine. I wonder what for. She keeps her bow fixed squarely on the two men as the older gentleman, David, sends his partner back to town to fetch some antibiotics. Ellie takes David's rifle, and the two await his partner's return in a nearby shack. David is an interesting character for sure, a soft demeanor, and is awfully concerned with why Ellie is there, which she cleverly keeps to herself. He seems nice enough, but Ellie, being a young girl out alone by herself, is extremely cautious. Rightfully so, it seems, as David was hiding another gun from her, which he does use to save her from some infected that must have caught wind of the deer, and the fight is on. A group of infected swarm the shack, and the two make a hasty escape through a nearby sorting facility, in which they're separated, and Ellie has to sneak past some clickers alone. This is our first real look at the differences between Joel and Ellie and their playstyles. Joel is this massive hulking guy, super strong, and uses that to his advantage, oftentimes preferring a head-on assault when facing threats. Ellie's 14, if you hadn't forgotten, and obviously doesn't have the same advantages, but she's small, and she's quick, and can use the environment to her advantage in these situations. Spaces that were far too tight for Joel to fit in, Ellie can move through no problem, leading to a more dynamic playstyle at the cost of some raw power. David and Ellie reunite, and there's this parallel where Ellie gets David to boost her up to the high ground. A funny role reversal, as you've always been the one boosting people up for the whole game. They push through to another building, where their final stand with the group of infected takes place. There's obviously a fair few more than they expected, and they've made their way onto the roof, so it's up to you to use every tool at your disposal to fend off the incoming horde. They approach from almost every direction, the fight culminating in an intense battle with a bloater, and soon, silence. David and Ellie return to the deer, and she's a little less apprehensive towards him after their shared struggle. As they await the return of David's companion, he opens up to her about something.
Sent a group of men out, a nearby town, to look for food. Only a few came back. They said that the others had been slaughtered by a crazy man. And get this, he's a crazy man traveling with a little girl. You see, everything happens for a reason.
David and James are from the same group of survivors that attacked us at the university, to which we killed basically everyone, meaning our initial distrust of David was warranted. I really like this bait and switch. He lets Ellie go with the antibiotics, to which his partner protests, but he's weirdly insistent about letting her leave. Ellie returns to her horse.
Joel?
Oh my god, Joel's alive! I've never been happier! He is in incredibly poor shape though. The antibiotics required for likely a months-long infection from his wound, a grisly sight. It's hard to think of just what hardships Ellie would have had to have gone through to get Joel to this point, but I think it's better left to the imagination. Ellie administers the medication and assures Joel that he's going to make it through this as she tries to get some sleep. A quick recap of this section. I think it's really interesting the way that everything is positioned. The game wants you to ask a lot of questions. Is Joel dead? Are we going to be playing as Ellie for the whole game now? Maybe even make us consider that David might be our new companion from here on out. I think that sense of uncertainty does a really good job at providing you with an intense sense of relief when we learn that Joel is alive, and says a lot about their relationship as Ellie has tended to a nearly dying man for months on end. They've come a long way since Boston. Ellie is awoken to the sound of yelling and quickly deduces that David's group tracked her in an attempt to find Joel. She takes the horse and rides away, hoping to lead the group away from our man. This section is thrilling as the group desperately try to capture you on David's request. After getting a fair distance from Joel, they manage to take out the horse, meaning Ellie has to trek on foot, our first stealth encounter against human enemies while playing as her. The same as before, stealth is much more important as she's not a 200-pound man. We eventually make it to an abandoned lodge and are seemingly home free.
Relax. Keeping you alive here. There you go. There you go.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Fuck, not this again.
Ellie wakes up in a cage, and well, these people are cannibals. We see James cut up a corpse in front of us, and our immediate thought is if this was the plan for Ellie as well. As horrific as that is, David's intentions for her are somehow even more repulsive, instead keeping her captive to court her. Despite the swathes of terrible people we've encountered so far, David and his soft-spoken demeanor is somehow more terrifying, yet Ellie refuses to back down.
Ellie is the little girl that broke your fucking finger!
We switch back to Joel here, who seems to have made somewhat of a recovery in the time since we last saw him. There's an argument to be made that this level of recovery breaks immersion a little bit, as it seemed like he was in such a bad state that he shouldn't even be able to stand up, especially considering the game's commitment to realism, but I'm willing to suspend my disbelief here. Some of David's group stuck around to look for Joel, and we'll have to take him out to find out where Ellie went. Joel is attacked by two men, but quickly overpowers them. We get a glimpse of Joel's violent past here, where he tortures the two men for Ellie's location before killing both of them.
Fuck you, man. He told you what you wanted. I ain't telling you shit.
That's all right. I believe him.
No, wait!
Wakey.
Come on.
Let's go!
David pulls Ellie out of her cage, where she bites him and cleverly uses her infection to her advantage, confusing the two just enough that she can make an escape before they hurt her. She sneaks through the town, townsfolk on high alert as she finds her way into a restaurant where she's cornered by David. This section acts as a sort of boss fight, using everything we've learned through Ellie's gameplay sections to overcome such a fearsome opponent. The goal is to sneak up on David, avoiding cracked glass on the floor as it'll alert him to our position. I forgot how scary this section was. If you screw up, David will sprint towards you. It's really unsettling. Those plates on the floor can also be used to our advantage, as David will step on them as well, alerting us to his position. As the player, I think you fully expect Joel to burst in and save us, but it doesn't happen. Ellie has to overpower David herself. Consumed by her own rage, Ellie brutalizes David, and Joel shows up to do something that she can't. Save her from herself.
He tried to...
Oh, baby girl. It's okay. It's okay.
This is the moment where Joel and Ellie become Joel and Ellie, where he lets go of his doubt, fully accepting her as his surrogate daughter. We don't get to hear the dialogue here, as words could never be enough to capture the essence of this moment, entwining their fates and setting them on a path that neither of them could have imagined just a few short months earlier. Ellie was at one point just cargo to Joel, yet now he fully accepts her as his own blood, and she accepts it too. We're in Salt Lake City now, and we can see the hospital. We're almost near the end of our odyssey, and Ellie is distant. It's clear that she never really recovered from her confrontation with David. Joel promises that when they make it out of this, he'll teach her how to play guitar. He calls Ellie to fetch a ladder, something we've done many times over the course of the game, yet this time she doesn't respond. It's clear something is eating away at her. As we finally boost her up, something catches her eye and she runs after it. And even after everything we've been through, nothing could prepare me for this.
Shh, don't scare it.
I won't.
What are you doing?
It's all right. Come here. Hey, hurry up.
So much of the magic here rests in the intangible.
Hey there.
The giraffe means so much, yet it's hard to describe the feeling it evokes with words alone, but I'm going to give it my best shot. Life is hard. People hurt us, and in turn, we hurt back. Sometimes things feel hopeless. We feel alone, yet the giraffe reminds us that even when it feels like our world is ending, things can always get better. Life flourishes for the animals, free from their boundless captivity of the old times. It's not the end of the world for them, and really, it isn't for us either. It's beautiful here. Birds sing in the distance. The end of the world is a matter of perspective. Everything about this section is just absolute perfection. The delivery of the performances, the dramatic timing in the narrative. The giraffe scene is cemented in my mind as one of the medium's greatest achievements, so truthful to the game's themes and so poignant in its execution. Ellie's childlike wonder is what really sells this scene over anything else. She's just a kid. She's just been through hell, Yet it reminds Joel that if anything is worth saving the world for, it's her.
It's got its ups and downs, but you can't deny the view, though.
This is a great callback to the start of the game, and we get some time to take it all in. What I would give to experience this for the first time again. We have a purpose here, however. We still have to get Ellie to the Fireflies. Joel suggests turning back, just going back to Jackson and living a peaceful life. Ellie wishes to see this through. Every part of her journey, everyone that died to get her here, Tess, Henry, Sam, it needs to mean something to her. The two explore a triage on the way to the hospital. Joel talks about the outbreak and just how devastating it was to see families ripped apart. As we push forward, Ellie calls Joel back. The photo of Sarah that Tommy showed Joel earlier, Ellie stole it, gifting it to him here as a symbol of trust. It's finally time for Joel to stop running. What follows is our final combat section with the infected, with not one but two bloaters, a good showing of how far we've come, not just in our arsenal but in stealth prowess also. It's a good challenge, yet the bloaters still feel a little unbalanced even at this stage of the game. After we make it through, the tunnel we're travelling through is unfortunately flooded, so our traversal has to be a little more considered. As we approach the rapids, we have to cross an overturned bus. Ellie makes it across, but as Joel goes to do the same, it's knocked loose and he falls through the broken door as the water floods in around him. Ellie, refusing to abandon him, leaps onto the bus to free him, despite being unable to swim, and the two eventually manage to open a path for him. As Joel desperately reaches for her, the bus topples, sending her tumbling into the rapids. She's knocked unconscious. Joel desperately swims over to her, pulling her out of the water, and she isn't breathing.
Hands in the air!
She's not breathing.
Hands in the fucking air!
Come on.
We found the Fireflies. Joel wakes up in the hospital and we see a familiar face.
Welcome to the Fireflies.
Marlene seems relieved to see him, but a little shaken as well. She tells us that Ellie survived our incident earlier, but she's under anesthesia being prepped for surgery. The doctors have run some tests and concluded that they will be able to reverse engineer a vaccine if they remove the fungal growth from inside of Ellie.
But it grows all over the brain.
It does.
Making a vaccine, saving humanity, is going to kill Ellie, to which Joel is obviously upset. You get the sense that Marlene full well understands the weight of this decision, yet sees saving humanity as non-negotiable. Joel protests the decision, and Marlene orders him to be marched out of the hospital, threatening to kill him if he tries anything. Joel kills the guard escorting him out and proceeds to massacre his way through the entire hospital. This is the most difficult combat section of the game, the first time we see automatic weapons. It's no coincidence here that the Fireflies, flashlights on rifles, look almost identical to the soldier that killed Sarah 20 years earlier. We can find an audio recording of Marlene saying that she promised Ellie's mother that she would look after her, and is immensely torn up by the decision, yet understands that it's not really a choice if it means saving the world. Joel reaches pediatrics and enters the operating room.
I won't let you take her.
The head surgeon raises a scalpel at him. Joel knows one thing, and it's that he's not going to lose another daughter. As Joel escapes from the hospital with Ellie, he's confronted at gunpoint by Marlene.
It's what she'd want. You know it.
We cut to a shot of Joel driving away, leaving you wondering for a second if Joel chose to leave Ellie behind. And then we hear her wake up in the back seat. She asks what happened, why they're leaving, and well, I'll just let you listen.
We found the fireflies. Turns out there's a whole lot more like you, Ellie. People that are immune. There's dozens, actually. Ain't done them a damn bit of good, neither. They've stopped looking for a cure. I'm taking us home.
We're back in Jackson now, and back in control of Ellie as we walk through the woods for one last time. Joel mentions that he used to take hikes with Sarah and that he thinks the two of them would have been good friends. We see the town of Jackson. Joel climbs up ahead of us as Ellie reaches for his hand.
All right, come on.
Hey, wait. Back in Boston, back when I was bitten, I wasn't alone. My best friend was there, and she got bit too. We didn't know what to do. So, she says, let's just wait it out. You know, we can be all poetic and just lose our minds together. I'm still waiting for my turn.
Ellie.
Her name was Riley, and she was the first to die. And then it was Tess. And then Sam.
None of that is on you.
You don't understand.
I struggled for a long time with surviving. And you... No matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear right now.
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything that you said about the fireflies is true.
I swear.
Okay.
Man, what an ending. I purposefully held back from commentary as I think it's best discussed once all the cards are on the table. Joel's decision to damn the world for the sake of one person is wholly irrational. It's unconscionably selfish, but it doesn't matter because it's so human that I doubt I'd have done any different if I was put in that position. I've seen a lot of discussion saying that Joel decided that the Fireflies were incompetent or he didn't believe that they could really make the cure, but I think that really misses the point. Trying to justify the decision with rational explanations means it wasn't a choice at all. To me, Joel full well knew that the Fireflies would be able to save every soul on the planet given the opportunity, and he took Ellie from them anyway. That's why the choice has weight, and trust me, you feel it. It's a genuine sacrifice for the only person that he would make that sacrifice for. Doom the world for the life of the one you love. To me, the more interesting moral conundrum here is whether or not the world is worth saving at all. Basically, every single person we've come across has abandoned their humanity in a desperate attempt to survive. We saw the harsh treatment of those in the quarantine zone. The military basically executing people on the spot if they were thought to be infected. The hunters of Pittsburgh to which we can only assume that there are many more in many other cities based on Joel's past who seem to take joy in killing those that entered, even children. And David's group, resorting to cannibalism, killing who knows how many outsiders in a sick act of self-preservation. That kind of depravity surely raises some questions about humanity returning to some form of normalcy. It's hard to see a world where humanity can come back from the lows it came to after the calamity. Yet we have Jackson, we had Henry, we had Sam, and we had Tess. To some degree the Fireflies as well, all acting in service of a world that they really believed in. Nature is thriving, and the chance to make a life for the children, present and future, would surely be worth whatever cost. One thing that is undisputable is that both parties, Joel and the Fireflies, took away Ellie's agency to make the decision for herself, something that really adds to the ambiguity of that final scene. Our whole goal was to get Ellie to the Fireflies, and to just leave without her ever seeing anyone or anything and be like, hey, they can't do it, so we left, is really suspicious. And it's clear that Ellie is a little apprehensive about Joel's lie, but begrudgingly accepts it anyway. In the end, it's hard to know what her true feelings would have been in that moment, and that's part of what makes the ending so special. It shows incredible restraint on behalf of the writers to leave us on such an ambiguous note, and I have so much respect for them for it. So that's The Last of Us. Simple story, complex characters, right? As you can hopefully tell, I really love this game. It absolutely defined my perspective on the industry on release, and it's easy for me to say, if this game didn't exist, there's no way I'd be writing this script right now. It's an absolute masterclass in writing, not just for the medium of video games, but for media in general. It's no surprise that HBO greenlit the show. It's a story that deserves to be experienced by as many people as possible. Its gameplay is generally good, maybe relying a little too heavily on environmental puzzles, but its ability to serve the plot without ever detracting from it is really special. Its world, while presenting the impossible scenario of mushroom zombies, somehow coalesces into one of the most realized and believable apocalypse scenarios I've ever seen. Its enemy design, its brilliant depiction of nature reclaiming the space that people once occupied so readily, it's really great. And the characters, Joel and Ellie, and their eventual coming together is one of the most compelling stories that I've ever encountered. Still to this day, I vividly remember experiencing parts of this game for the first time. The giraffes, the scene in the farmhouse. It's just incredible how personable and human of a story Naughty Dog were able to tell through these two. The real brilliance of The Last of Us, though, was that it was able to take these elements and combine them into something greater than the sum of its parts. I can point to any aspect of it and say that it has merit on its own, yet as a complete package, it's hard to deny that The Last of Us is anything other than a timeless masterpiece, and I hope it can be experienced by as many people as possible for years to come. And to you, if you made it this far, I want to say thank you for sticking this out with me. I know it's a little different than my other videos, but it's something I really wanted to make. So all of you guys, thanks. It means the world to me. Thanks so much for watching. Have the best day.